Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and in this video we're breaking down why the ending of the Odyssey is perfect. Christopher Nolan's new epic culminates in a crescendo that brings together every single thread of the film to weave this incredible tapestry for its final act. Building upon everything that's come before in this 2-hour and 52-minute epic, it strings a bow on the film's central themes. And I can't stop thinking about it. In this video, I want to talk about why it works so well and all the things it pays off in the end. Now, on Odysseus' decade-long journey home, he's encountered monsters, gods, witches, and Charlie's thrown on a beach paradise. And to be honest, if I washed up on there after every single island had been a hell site, I'd probably count my lucky stars. How the shit do I get there? But these supernatural elements are all stripped away for the climax, which boils down to a man simply winning back his family and home. I think having the ending strip away all the supernatural elements transforms it into a more emotionally cathartic climax. It honors Homer's telling of the tale, while also infusing Nolan's signature preoccupations with time, memory, guilt, identity, and the consequences of great actions. Now, for most of its runtime, the Odyssey does track Homer's narrative relatively closely. We have Odysseus devising the Trojan horse strategy to take over Troy, which somewhat acts as a parallel to where things end. Just in the same way he invaded the home of others, we see that the suitors have invaded his. They are pushing out his son, his dog, and taking his wife while he travels on the perilous journey. His fleet faces the wrath of Poseidon after blinding the Cyclops. He encounters the Lystragonians, who represent the incoming Iron Age, Circe, the Sirens, Scylla, and also the Underworld. Stranded with Calypso for 7 years, he then escapes and washes ashore in Ithaca disguised as a beggar. Warned by Agamemnon before returning home, it's something that Odysseus uses to scope out his surroundings. The idea of deceit is very much tied to the character, and it's something that he's done throughout the tale. He lied to Sinon, snuck into Troy, he escaped the cave by disguising his sheep, deceived his men when it came to Scylla, and arrives back home as a beggar. He even uses the name Sinon as a way to throw off Antinous, with deception being something he constantly uses to draw people in. Now, we're told early on with Telemachus that the best way to fight is to draw your enemy in, and when they leave an opening, that's when you strike. Even with the way he goes to the suitors, he lets them push him around, spit in his food, not hit the thumbs up, and so on and so forth. Even when stringing the bow, he doesn't quite hit the marks, and this makes the suitors initially think he's pathetic, and they completely lower their guard. Thus, when he plucks the bow to give his enemy a heads up, they're completely overwhelmed by surprise. Now, in the lead up to this, I love the way Odysseus plays in scoping things out. He even goes and meets with Penelope, and the pair talk about whether the character can ever really come back. Talking through a blind, they discuss the heirs, time, and how guilt has kept them apart. Odysseus feels that the sacking of Troy may have burned the world entirely, as it's completely destroyed Zeus's law. People are terrified that strangers could show up at any time and tear everything down they've known under the guise of being strangers. One is told that they must treat others with kindness, but in breaking this law, everything's falling apart. It's something that shares a really great parallel with Oppenheimer, and we have two victors who regret how they won. One of the final shots of the film is Odysseus staring at the burning horse, possibly riddled with the guilt over what he's done. He does say, unfortunately though, that things will be forgotten, and as we know, we often repeat the mistakes of the past. But in invading Troy, he's now facing a form of karma with the suitors. His greatest trick has created consequences that have followed him all the way home, and just like how Oppenheimer wasn't let off the hook for the bomb, Odysseus isn't let off the hook for the war. He's also haunted by Athena taking the form of a woman who was beheaded in front of him. Clearly racked with guilt, it's very clear he's unsure if he can ever go back to being honourable. This conversation with Penelope is all about accepting the past and seeing if one can truly move beyond it and embrace a future together, even with all the changes they've gone through. Penelope then asks about the pin of Athena, and this is an item she's used to identify whether people who've seen him are actually being genuine. Saying he never took it off, it shows that the one thing he's held on to these 20 years is her. Now, though this ending is about returning home, it's actually about what home really is. Ithaca is something that he's been striving towards getting to, but in the end, he ends up leaving it. That's because home isn't Ithaca itself. Home is the home that he made with Penelope. Penelope is all that's ever been there for him, and it doesn't matter where they are as long as the pair are together. Now, this does change things slightly from the poem, as there we had the bed test. This is carried out by Penelope, who cunningly guesses her husband's identity. She asks him if he could move their bed, but he says it's difficult as it's actually built around an olive tree. Absolutely butchering it, but that's one of the things that only he would know. The bed itself is an immovable symbol of home and fidelity, as well as their connection. However, the pin actually works on an emotional tie due to its connection to Athena and it being something he could carry with him for the entire journey. It's also something Penelope's been looking out for. Nolan often laces his films with items attached to memories, and this has been seen in a lot of the director's work. Stuff like the tattoos in Memento or the totem in Inception. This pin is his undying connection to the past and something that's a part of Penelope that he can keep forever with him. However, there's clearly a darkness that still exists within the character. Throughout the film, we've been hearing of the people from the sea who've been going around and making a mockery of Zeus's law. It's in this that we realize that it's actually Odysseus and his men, and you have a big moment of like, wait, are we the baddies? People throughout Troy would definitely be terrified of them, and we see them rock up to islands and basically take what they want. Even when sneaking into the Cyclops' cave and stuff seeming a bit off there, mate, like big bags of cheese there, they were still going in and being like, well, this is ours now. But that was seen in stuff like Circe and even the Lystragonians. I do wonder if they'd shown up and maybe would have started a fight if they'd seen they were weaker. They weren't exactly showing up to places to make mates, so Penelope even wonders if the man she loved truly still exists or if he's been changed too much by the war. Now, in order to fully get her, he has to 1. Murder all the men vying for her hand, and 2. Show he's the man he's always been and prove himself by passing the test. This is tied to the bow, which is linked to the party trick he pulled off when they were younger. Only Odysseus is capable of stringing it, and we close out things with her calling everyone together for this test. I love the way that everyone has a go as well, and we hear the constant laughing in the background. Antinous as well is just amazing in the scene, and just the way he's like, oh mate, I could string it if I wanted to, but just didn't want to really. It's perfectly acted. I love the way throughout how there's just these little lines about how he's clearly told people he wanted to go to Troy as well, but Sinon or Odysseus wouldn't let him. He's such a cracking villain, and even in the end, he's a snivelling coward who just cowers in the corner. Now I have to give a lot of props to Pattinson, because there's so many actors out there who wouldn't accept the role of a snivelling coward, especially if they're also playing Batman at this point in time. You look at stuff like The Fast and the Furious, though, where the stars apparently have in their contract that they can't be embarrassed on screen, and there's definitely a lack of vanity here in the performance. He makes for a nice reflection of Odysseus as well, who showed up to places with his men and taken what they wanted. Or at least tried to, because they got their shit rocked more than once. But Odysseus finally shows who he is while stringing the bow, and I absolutely love the build-up of this moment. Just the way Penelope walks off, and then the score has the strings plucking away, and then we get Odysseus plucking the bow, which stalls Penelope in her tracks. Then him firing through the axes, and the reaction of Mia Goth, it all just works really well. Before my guy can even say, Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne, he's got an arrow through his neck, and you get to see Odysseus unleashing on the gang. Now, I absolutely love in movies when we see someone get picked on and pushed around, and then they show up at the end and kick the absolute shit out of them. They did that brilliantly in the scene in Superman 2, but here it just goes to the next level. Seeing him just wail on them while everyone panics is outstanding, and it feels like the perfect crescendo for the film. It allows Telemachus to also show that he's worthy to be king. Taking down Logan Marshall Green's pseudo while Odysseus wrecks shop, we see a nice passing of the torch from father to son. Lightning also crackles in the background, showing the anger of Zeus, and eventually Odysseus works through the men. It's even to the point that some of them just kneel down and submit like, fuck this, I'm out. And they've literally just seen their mate get an arrow through the throat for questioning Christopher Nolan, who has just had the biggest opening weekend of his career. Anyway, after tearing through them, he finally makes his way to Penelope to rest in her arms. It's here that he even speaks to the punishment he bore on the world by carrying out the destruction of Troy. He views his deception as a violation of Zeus's law, and that it could be the catalyst for broader civilizational collapse. From history, we know that Rome and also the barbarians are coming as well, and the Lystragonians very much represent this unrelenting force that will sunset their rule. All they have is the time that's left for them, which Penelope and Odysseus want to share together. After the suitor's defeat, he abdicates the throne for his son, and he entrusts the future to the next generation. He and his wife then sail on the open sea chasing the setting sun. Their journey reflects the possibility of brighter days ahead of them, despite the time they've lost and the failures they've had in the past. Now, why this is perfect is because the ending builds up the film's core message while also remaining close to the spirit of Homer's telling. In the poem, he's flawed but ultimately rewarded and seen as a mythic hero that we can all aspire to be. However, they don't really lean into why he's so broken, and the movie deepens who he is. Like Oppenheimer, he's just a man who's been broken by his own genius. The attack on Troy is his original sin that could destroy all of civilization, as back in the day, people required the friendship of strangers to build camps, alliances, and ultimately society. However, war tears people apart and has the capability of ending us all. Again, it's Oppenheimer's way of thinking, and how in creating a weapon that could destroy humanity, he may have actually done it. So they leave things having recognized their failures and leave the next generation to carve out their own path forward. In the end, they go off into the sun, which also kind of plays off Odysseus' fate in the book, in that his death is described as coming from the sea. Due to the sea people's mention, your mind kind of wanders to that and the people that are coming for them. However, the film reframes the death as coming from the sea as being something more optimistic. It gives the idea that his death from the sea may have come from sailing with his wife and passing away due to old age. Them chasing the setting sun is also very, very symbolic. The rising and setting sun can represent endings and new beginnings, and it's such a powerful thing to end on. We could have had a film that ended with a hero triumphantly returning and simply restoring his kingdom, but instead this focuses on the cost of war, the fallout that comes from it, and ultimately what we've lost versus what we should have done. Odysseus and Penelope talked about running away when they were younger, but Odysseus stuck to his duty. He was unwilling to defy his master and therefore followed him into war. Ultimately, Troy fell, but Agamemnon lost his daughter, was murdered by his wife because of it, and didn't get to live with the glory he'd been after. Helen was also scarred by the war, and though she was what they claimed to go and fight for, even that led to her being in a place where she wasn't left unscathed. Everything comes with a cost, and in seeking glory, one will ultimately lose something because of it. Whether that's with your family, your wife, who you are as a person, everything comes with a cost unless you focus on what really matters. Now, though the original poem's resolution works for the time it was released, I think the film also meets us where we are today. Power corrupts, we often unleash things without thinking of the consequences, and heroes are often flawed instead of being the mythic figures of old. Even if you look at like how we view the soldiers of World War II versus, I don't know, a war like Vietnam or something, you can see a real shift in how people think about duty, war, and ultimately the cost. Nolan's Odysseus shows us true wisdom comes from accepting one's failure and also knowing when to step aside. The ending succeeds by bringing together all the themes of identity, home, and the guilt that Odysseus feels in breaking Zeus's law. It also gives us a brutal showdown that makes the hero earn his place at his wife's side by killing those who vie for her. Ultimately, it's a really impactful ending, and whether it's the plucking at the bow, the shot of the sun, or Odysseus still getting flashes from the war, it perfectly builds towards those final few moments. Odysseus is finally home, and though that's not Ithaca, it is with Penelope. And yes, that closes out our breakdown of the ending, why I think it worked so well, and obviously I'd love to hear all your thoughts on it below. Please drop a like on the video, and if you want to follow us on Instagram and keep up to date with what we're doing, then make sure that you check us out at Heavy Spoilers. There we basically drop everything that we're up to, what we're working on, what I've been doing on my day-to-day, and yeah, thank you for stopping by, but yeah, head over there after this. Did you know as well that members of the channel also get early access to videos like this every single week, and if you click the join button, you get at least one big breakdown a week before anyone else. It all goes towards helping these videos get made. We massively appreciate it, and yeah, thank you for all your support if you guys are doing that. Much appreciated. If not though, don't worry mate, I'll appreciate the thumbs up as well, and thank you again for checking out this breakdown. Now if you want something else to watch, we've got another video on the film right after this, so hopefully I see you over there on that one too. If not though, you take care mate, you have been the best as always, and I've been your host Paul, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.